Okay, well, hi everybody. Welcome, and as I'm going along here, please feel free to put some questions in the comment area. This will be an overview for you, and hopefully you got an opportunity to watch my little video. If not, you can go back and watch it. Just a little background. This is a picture I found as I was getting ready. This is Patty Shipman, for those who didn't know her and me back in 2011. I guess we were probably at a Westerns competition, and Patty had been the financial director for a number of years, and unfortunately she passed away earlier this year. And so it's been quite an experience in picking up the pieces, finding all the pieces, pulling it all together. So it's been a very busy time trying to get feet underneath us. And then I thought I would just give you a tiny bit of background on me. I am new at this, but I'm not new at NAWG, and I'm not new at judging. I think I know a lot of you. I've actually been judging since the late 70s, but I've had positions. I was on the Minnesota State governing board, gosh, back in the early 80s, and then my term just expired in June. I did it again. I've been an SJD. That's the hardest job, by the way, of anything you can do. RJD, I've been a D3 assigner, and then I've been the national assigner. And then I stepped back for a while, but now I'm back. I'm retired from my full-time job, and I have time to help out a little bit more. So I said, sure, I'll help. My background is engineering and also business. I spent 25 years at the IRS as an engineering auditor and also a senior manager. So I know a little bit about auditing. And what's turned out to be really helpful is I'm chairing a finance committee at my church that oversees about a $2.8 million endowment fund. And I have accountants, I have lots of people at church that help, and a lot of that information ties back to us because we too are a nonprofit. But when all is said and done, day-to-day finances and oversight are new to me. And so I join you as being a new person, and I hope that we can be learning together as we go through this. I don't want any of you guys to be afraid of doing finances. I don't want you to be afraid of the IRS. I want you to feel free to ask lots of questions as we go and as we learn together. Okay, so there's a few things that I think are really, really important, and I've made this presentation to our National Governing Board too. And the first thing is to always understand that finances are supporting our mission. I think we can get so embroiled in all the little details that we forget about what is the big picture. The big picture is that our finances, both our income and our outgo, is supporting our mission. And I would ask you to emblazon your heart, and I think Cookie's done a really good job with her presentation too of talking about this, that our mission at NAWG is professional development of our members and also promoting women's gymnastics in the United States. If you keep that in mind as you're working through your finances, I think you'll be just fine. Okay, so I wanted to talk about a few things. Transparency. We're a tax-exempt organization, and there's responsibility that comes with that benefit. We have to be transparent and open in all that we do financially. Now, I've been around the organization long enough that there was a time when we were not particularly transparent, and we were always supposed to be transparent. So I think for some of us, becoming more and more transparent with our finances has been a little bit of a journey to get there, but we're working really hard to get there and make sure that we're there. And that's a fundamental requirement of us as a what they call 501c3. That's the code section of the Internal Revenue Code. And it just means that we are a tax-exempt organization. That means, tax-exempt means we do not pay federal income tax. We also, I have not seen us paying any state income tax. There could be a situation, but I don't believe as a whole we pay state income tax either. I think the place where we can have some confusion is, what about state sales tax? And that, I don't know the answer to that because I don't live in all your states. I know back in the early 80s when I was SJD in Minnesota, I filed paperwork and I was able to get tax exempt from sales tax. I don't even know in Minnesota if that works anymore. You'll have to check with your state to find that out. And then they'll for sure ask for your tax ID number, and there it is. That is also out all over the internet, actually, on our tax returns. So yeah, that's not a secret either. Our tax returns are public, and here's some information you maybe haven't looked at and seen, but we are required to give the last 3 years of our tax returns to anyone who requests them. Currently, they're posted in the SJD area of the existing website. Brenda's going to be rolling out a new website shortly, and in that website, they'll be on important documents or official documents, something like that. So anybody who wants to see these can see them. If you want to see our tax returns, you can even Google NAWGJ and Form 990, and you will find them, okay? There's other organizations that get copies of our tax returns. So there's absolutely no reason for that to be a secret. Literally last week, our tax return for 2019 was accepted by the IRS. Our accountant filed it, and we'll be getting that tax return up when we launch the new website shortly. But here's the overview of that. If we talk about all of NAWGJ, that's national, region, states, in fiscal year 2019, which ran from November of 2018 through October of 2019, that's our fiscal year. We don't go on a calendar year, we go on a fiscal year. Our income was 2.3 million, and our outgo or expenses was 2.3, a little bit more than our income. So overall, for that fiscal year, we actually lost money a little bit, 33,000. It was our symposium year. We spent a lot of money on symposiums, so that's okay. The other piece that you'll see is the assets. How much money do we have in our checking savings account? We have one CD. Colorado's the only state that I am aware of that has a certificate of deposit, and then equipment. And we've got over $2.7 million. And folks, as SJDs, RJDs, national folks, we are all officers of an organization that has $2.7 million in assets. That's a little bit surprising when you think of it, but we have some fiduciary responsibilities. And I won't read this to you. I did read it aloud in the video I put together, but we have to guard against conflicts of interest, and we have to be monitoring to make sure that we don't have conflicts of interest financially. And here's a point where I'm hoping that you guys will wake up a little bit and think about it. We as officers, all of us, have fiduciary responsibilities. So that's financial responsibilities of care, loyalty to NAWG's highest good, and obedience to the law. So I'm hoping there's at least 2 of you that can think about, from a financial perspective, what might be a duty of care? What can you think of? And if you just want to unmute yourself and speak up, that'd be terrific.
Okay, I'll speak up. Maybe making sure that our funds are being used equally and fairly between all judges within our state.
Good, Nadine, thank you. Thank you. Yep, that would be an example. I need one more brave soul.
I'll speak up. I think the policy of having 4 eyes is a duty of care.
Exactly. What we're trying to show with that is that we are doing what a normal person in a normal organization would do. It. We're taking care. We're not sloppy about what we're doing. Okay, next duty that we have. Loyalty to NAWG's highest good. What might be loyalty to NAWGJ's highest good?
The education of our membership.
Exactly. It's our mission. Anybody else? Anybody else remember the second piece of our mission?
To promote women's gymnastics.
Yes, exactly. That's the highest good. So when we're looking at our finances, looking at those things and making sure that we are in fact being loyal. And then finally, I'm trying to look really crabby in this one. Obedience of the law. Anybody?
This is Debbie. Obviously, we have to spend the money in accordance with the law and account for it properly so that there can be no there can't be any sort of improprieties.
Right. Thank you, from a fellow federal employee.
Yes, I'm very, very, very concerned about that.
Yes, appreciate that, Debs. And here's something I think we all need to be really aware of, and particularly we know right now is a stressful time. It's a stressful time financially for people, but this may not be a unique time by any means. We have to be aware that in times of stress, good people can do bad things. I know one of my favorite bosses used to say, when you're working with people, about 10% at any one time, about 10% of people are under some really strange stress things. It might be home, it might be financial, it might be physical. There's things that go on in people's lives that make really good people behave kind of poorly. And his 10% rule of thumb worked for me, and it was true, because I'd have an employee do something really wacko, and you'd look and think, why did they do that? So financially, just be aware of this. It's part of why being transparent and 4 eyes and all the things that we're trying to do is important. Okay. Now, here's our 4 eyes policy, and this is the accountability that we have. Here's some things, and as I came into this, again, my background being auditing, I looked at it from an auditor's perspective, and the number one thing an auditor is going to be looking at is how are you accounting for income? We have had, in my opinion, at NAWG, and having been through various, holding various offices, we've really been very picky about our expenses. And are we looking at the expenses? And do we have a receipt for those expenses? So, but what about the other side of it? The cash that we bring in particular. So here's some things that you need to be aware of. For cash, always have at least 2 unrelated people count and note the cash. I know at church we do this when we count the offering. We always have 2 unrelated people there. Get that cash deposited as soon as possible, a typical, generally a business day after you receive it, okay? And then all checks should be written to NAWG, not to you as an individual. And that's, of course, because we don't want NAWG money going into your personal account. So examples might be NAWGJ Missouri or Arizona NAWGJ. That those would be ways that you should be handling the income. Always need receipts. Now this was just a receipt I found on the internet for Walmart. I guess we're eating a hamburger. If you take cash out, a lot of you guys have cash cards, and if you do that, write out a receipt, sign it, date it, indicate what you were using the cash for. And then again, that transparency, make sure you're sharing your financial reports with your state governing boards and also with your membership. They should always know how you're spending your money, what kind of income's coming in, what's going out. And again, a reminder, support our mission. Like I say, I want this emblazoned on all of our hearts that we are always supporting our mission, okay? And this was just a challenge. This is just a Robin challenge. This is not anything that's a law or anything like that. But looking at our overall expenses for fiscal year 2019, we spent about 44% of our expenses on education, clinics, and workshops. I kind of like to see us move that up towards over 50%. So that can just be kind of a personal challenge to start looking at that. And then I've been asked about how much money should we have in the accounts. And I know this has been a lot of discussion about this. So I reached out to some friends who are accountants. I went on the internet and read some accounting firms and some law firms' suggestions for nonprofits and came up with this. Generally, you want a minimum of 3 to 6 months worth of your operating expenses in probably your checking account. And that gives you a cushion in case an expense comes up, you've got enough to cover it. But then once you start having more than about 2 years worth of operating expenses, it's starting to get high. So let's go back to our $2.7 million that we as NAWG have. Well, we spent $2.3 million in the last fiscal year. So that actually gave me some calm, and I realized, wait a minute, for the whole notch, for the whole big picture, if we're starting to get up to $4.65 million worth of money sitting in our bank accounts, then we're probably getting kind of high. But we're sitting fine right now. There may be some individual accounts. We have some states that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in them, and then we have some states that have a few $100s in their accounts. So that can be something that you can be looking at, and you can work with your regional judging director on that if you're one of the high high account states. Just keep an eye on that. Okay, so one of the first things you have to do is set up a bank account. And you need to have yourself as an SJD, your regional judging director, and then me set up on your signature card. We are having significant problems with this right now and a lot of frustration getting this done. Banks have some new rules we found out, and signatures across state lines can really be a concern. Finding that we're having to mail things back and forth and or go in person to the banks, it's been a really, so don't get too frustrated, just stick with it. And I found in talking to the NAWGJ accountant, the reason that they're looking at us so closely is the way we are set up is a typical way that people launder money. And so I just kind of tease about that. Oh yeah, let's go launder some money. No, our money's fine, we're safe, but the banks are being really picky about what we're doing. We've even had some of the bank personnel suggest that we use a credit union as they have fewer rules. So I know I've been asked by at least one RJD and some other people, do we have to use Bank of America or Wells Fargo? No, you don't have to. At one point, and at the time, it made sense that we were going to be putting our monies in one bank and all the different accounts, but it probably isn't making as much sense right now. So I would say for you as SJDs, whatever bank or credit union you can work with and that give you good service is probably a good one for you. And for us as a nonprofit, we really want to have a financial oversight committee, and we just approved that last week, and we on the national board are in the process of setting that up. And some of the responsibilities, instead of 4 eyes, it's going to be more eyes. Do you like my little cartoon there? Set investment strategy, updating our financial policies, financial reports, chart of accounts. I know that what we got going on now is not easy, and the goal would be to make it easier. Assure that our financial training is adequate, assure that we're fulfilling our fiduciary responsibility. Oh, I love that word, fiduciary. Review the Federal Deposit Insurance Company corporation limits and determine what risk we want to do. And then review and recommend changes needed in the financial procedures. So I think having a finance committee is going to be great. I think we'll be able to talk more about this in a year once we get our feet on the ground with it. But this is certainly something we'll take input on if there's anything you see that we're always looking for advice or ideas. So